My husband signed away his rights and left us because he wants normal children. Now, he wants custody after learning that our son was a genius. The day Marcus signed the termination papers, he didn't even look at our son. Oliver was 4 years old, sitting in the corner of our lawyer's office, lining up toy cars by color and size. Marcus had complained about that for months. How Oliver wouldn't make eye contact, how he'd memorize entire books but couldn't hold a conversation, how other dads at the park got to play catch while Marcus sat alone watching Oliver count leaves. Marcus said he wanted a fresh start, a normal family with normal kids. He'd already met someone new, a woman named Brittany who had 2 typical sons from her first marriage, boys who played baseball and looked you in the eye. I sat across from him in that office feeling like I'd been hollowed out. The judge asked Marcus 3 times if he understood what he was signing. Full termination of parental rights, no custody, no visitation, no financial obligation. Marcus signed without hesitation. The first 2 years after he left were the hardest of my life. Oliver's therapies cost more than my rent. Speech therapy, occupational therapy, behavioral specialists, insurance covered almost nothing. I worked double shifts at the hospital while my mother watched Oliver. Some nights I'd come home and find him still awake at 3 a.m., reading encyclopedias by flashlight because he said the pictures helped him understand how the world worked. By age 6, Oliver started doing things that amazed me. He'd calculate restaurant tips faster than the waitress could type them into the register. He memorized the periodic table by accident while flipping through a science magazine. His teacher called me in because Oliver had corrected her math on the whiteboard and she didn't know how to handle it. The school district sent a psychologist to evaluate him. She spent 3 hours with Oliver and called me afterwards sounding almost nervous. She said Oliver's IQ couldn't be accurately measured with standard tests because he'd maxed out every section. She used words like profoundly gifted and exceptional cognitive abilities. She recommended a specialized academy that cost $40,000 a year. I laughed and told her I couldn't afford that. She went quiet, then said something strange. She said kids like Oliver attract attention and that I should be careful about who I told. I didn't understand what she meant until strange things started happening. A man in a gray suit showed up at Oliver's school asking about his test scores. The principal called me alarmed, saying he'd claimed to be from the district office but couldn't be verified. A week later, my mother noticed a black car parked outside her house every afternoon during pickup. She wrote down the plate and it traced to a rental company that wouldn't give her information. My sister called saying Marcus's mother had reached out after 5 years of silence, asking questions about Oliver. How was he doing in school? Did he have special talents? Was he healthy? I blocked her number, but the questions kept coming from different directions. Marcus's cousin messaged me, asking for photos of Oliver. A woman claiming to be a documentary filmmaker contacted his school wanting to interview exceptional students. Then the custody papers arrived. Marcus wanted full custody of a child he'd legally abandoned. His lawyer argued that circumstances had changed, that Marcus was now better positioned to provide for Oliver's special needs. The filing mentioned Oliver's test scores, his acceptance to a gifted program, the attention from educational institutions, information Marcus should not have had access to. I hired a lawyer I couldn't afford and started digging. What I found made my blood run cold. Marcus hadn't randomly heard about Oliver's abilities. He'd been tracking us. Bank records showed he'd been paying a private investigator for 18 months. Photos of Oliver at school, at therapy, at the grocery store, reports detailing his test scores, his teachers' names, his medical appointments. But that wasn't the worst part. I found emails between Marcus and a company called Apex Development Systems. They specialized in identifying exceptional children for corporate recruitment programs. The emails discussed Oliver specifically, referring to him as a high-value asset with unprecedented potential. The last email mentioned a finder's fee of $250,000, payable upon successful custody transfer. Marcus wasn't trying to be Oliver's father again. He was trying to sell our son. And what I discovered next about who was really behind Apex made me realize I was fighting something much bigger than my ex-husband. The rest of the story is on my channel or linked below.